Most of us, if we got, because they don't even consider me a farmer now, being how that they've ran me out of business. But if you counted us up, it probably wouldn't be no more than about 7 or 8. And back in the days, say if you went back 30 years from now, you know, easily we'd have had 30 or 40 farms in these counties. Because USDA had been ticketed as the lender of last resort, that we finally phrased as the last plantation. You know, because what happened is when you look at USDA dealing with, you might as well say you done fell back to sharecropping. And sharecropping system is this. Okay, this whole year I'm gonna supply your seeds, your fertilizer, I'm gonna feed your family, I'm gonna put clothes on them and everything, and you can come here in the general store and get it. So at the end of the year, when you haul in all of these crops, well, you didn't break even this year and you still owe me about $3,500 or $4,000. So you never could break even. And though it kind of came over a little bit, but because a lot of the black farmers was more productive back in the days, a lot of them learned how to go ahead on and we're gonna pay this. We're gonna finally, everybody know, and the old generation saying, get out and under USDA. When you work, and every year that you work and your crop is done good, you lay some side, because in the years to come, you're gonna have to get out and under USDA or you're gonna lose. And that has been a tragic statement, and it's been repeated over and over again. It's true. That's the reason why all of these farmers that went through Pigford are still in debt to their land. Very interesting. What happened in Pigford? They gave you debt relief for emergency loan, for equipment loans, for livestock loans. Amazingly, they could not find any discrimination in farm ownership loans. How come? Because they got it written up that when they come for the land, they're gonna come for your livestock, your equipment. They're gonna come for, there's cotton in the field, everything, they're gonna get everything, you know, and they know it. And that's why it was so tragic that they would not, $50,000 was not what we was asking for. $50,000 would not buy one dude. They wouldn't buy the planters, wouldn't buy the hair, wouldn't buy the heads or anything on any of those combines and the tractor, anything. $50,000 would not buy anything under that shed, even used, no more or less new. But what happened is they forced us into a track A. You had track A and track B. Track A say $50,000 and debt relief. So when we started an uproar about you all, you know, my damages is more than $50,000. I'm $100,000, I'm $1 million in the damages. They said, but look, Alexander Pyrese, say, you're gonna get your farms back. And everybody was saying, to get out from under USDA and get my farm back. So they took the track A, not for the $50,000, but what they didn't get in track A, and that was the debt relief. We were qualified to obtain loans from the local bank, but the problem is the interest rate was so much higher so that you could get an instant rate from USDA for 5% interest when they was 15 and 16% interest. But what we didn't know at the time, 5% was not a deal, because what they did, they compounded the interest daily. And the interest in a lot of these loans, we thought about, hey, 5% sounds great. But when you compound the interest daily and say you're paying $20 a day on interest, every 5 days you owe them $100. At the end of a month, you owe them $600 plus. So, and with the interest compound, the reason why they wouldn't do discovery in this case, to open it up and expose these shameful conditions, you know what that is? That's 62 to 82% interest. And that's why everybody was trying to figure out how it got to be so outrageous, because we found out that the interest were being compounded daily on us. And so even at 5% interest, they were still, you know, getting us. And the local banks, they would do it, but the interest rate was much higher. And we went for the lower interest rate, but we didn't understand how the interest was being compounded. They call it accrued interest. It's accruing every day. Yep. So that, and that's something that they could not afford to bring this into court and open the books, because 62% interest. I mean, you ought to give us every 16 million acres of land need to be returned to us if you did this trick. If a white walked into a USDA, Farm Service Agency, and they approved his loan, Normally it's within 30 days. The amount that he wanted was there. He get the check, he's gone. The black farmer comes in, those same three scenarios is not gonna be the same. The amount that he asked for, is less than that. And it's gonna take him more than 60 days or more for them to get it to him. And the other side of that is then it's in a supervised account. For you to borrow money from anyone and then cannot control how you spend that money, but instead of that, you having to go back to USDA office, Farm Service Agency office, and they gotta sign a check every time you want fuel, every time you want seeds, every time you want fertilizer, you wanna repair your tractors. There have been many instances, the reason why this lawsuit was so bad, there were cases where black farmers filed for a loan in January, February, coming right up to March and April, the planting season. Then they gave them loans in August and September. So now it's the planting season is over and everybody's harvesting. If you take that money, you ain't finna do nothing but get yourself in a hole because you chose to be paying it back in the harvest time. That happened. Many times when you got these supervised accounts, the other thing you got is, there was one farmer, I think it was in South Carolina, I remember this one, and he had like 12 acres of peas. And the insect started on his peas. So he goes to the Farm Service Agency office and says, hey man, I need to sign a check for me to get, where I can get the chemicals to spray and save my crop. He went on vacation. When he came back, just all kind of things. When he got the check, 3 weeks later, the insects totally destroyed the crop. These kind of things was happening on a regular basis with us. Anytime you got a supervised account, that's the reason why Farm Service Agency and USDA would not allow this to go to court. Because when they say all of this evidence was destroyed, no, we're alive. And you can look at the case and see where you applied for loans or you went to get your money and they denied you. But this thing was nothing but a big cover-up. Supervised accounts was designed to take your land because it jumped through too many hoops to spend the money that you're supposed to be obligated to pay back, and you can't spend it like you want to become as profitable, the profitability, to make the money, to pay it back. You lose that because you run up and down the road trying to get him to sign your check. And if they was to take him to court, 95% of all the farmers in America that deal with USDA and those loans, they all was under supervised account. One incident, I had my peanut my peanut converter, it was broken. And I had a piece on it, it was about $400 some. We harvesting peanuts. I goes over there and he's on vacation and won't be back for a week. So when he finally get there, I runs over there 60 miles to Byron, Georgia. And when I get there, he's out on a farm visit. I called back and said, I need to set up an appointment. I set up an appointment for 2 days, 3 days. It took me 2 weeks to finally get that done. That is by design. That is to frustrate you and discourage you and run you out of farming, They wouldn't dare open up this to the public. We would try this case in front of an all-white jury, and it'll make them cry, some of the stuff. I mean, this is a shock to the American sense of fairness. I was on the front page of the Albany Herald, when the Secretary of Agriculture asked me, Mr. Slaughter, do you want a loan? I told him, no, sir, I want y'all to leave me alone. So it got the front page of the Albany Herald back in those days, but about the injustice that they was always messing with your money. And if you ever had a supervised account, that whoever came up with that, he had to be the second cousin, if not the first one, to Adolf Hitler or some of that character. Because it was, it really was, it's bad, sad. But this is one of these best kept secret because these good old boys, when you start talking about the county committee, all of them started going in the closet and getting their hoods and their sheets and everything out because it obviously must be an awful lot of money because we don't know how much, but we have tried it all over the country. Say, hey man, I heard that you got this for it. And they be like, no man, we ain't get that much. And some of them wouldn't say nothing, so that means they probably got more than you suggested them. Nobody, there's somebody that knows, but that is one of those things that was a carry over from the old Jim Crow South, right? And all of them sits there. And the reason why this money comes through it because it's connected to the Democratic and Republican Party and their re-elections. You know, just about Democratic or Republican, they make sure that your money for them county committees come in. And we sure is in the hundreds of thousands, millions, because some of the money we hear floating around there is unbelievable. But where it is, we tried to find out, and we was trying to file one time a Freedom of Information Act to get it. They said, no, you don't file here. No, you got to file over there. So I was saying, oh, wait a minute. You know, if you don't know where to file, so how you gonna get started? But it's one of those things that USDA don't like to talk about it. You know, because all these millions of dollars that go into these county committees, and we know it because we have tested it. And we know the other reason is that why come you fight so hard and so adamantly to keep us from being on the committee, you know? And not only that, when you finally say, okay, it's enough pressure, we'll put you on the committee, but you can't vote. And you know, and so, I mean, the few that we know that went to these committees, guess what? They never talk about the budget. They'll talk about your bases on there, your cotton base, your soybean base. They'll talk about how much subsidies you're gonna get. They'll talk about everything, but they won't talk about this money and this budget money that goes to those county committees. And normally they're always the biggest and most powerful white farmers in that county. It never fails. Few times that we have had people to go to the meetings, every time they say, yeah, I was in the meeting, but they didn't ever talk about the money. They talked about the subsidy programs, they talked about the bases on this here, they talked about, I said, but how about the money and the budget? They don't talk about it. And we only had a few of them, don't get me wrong, there ain't a lot of us that be on it. You only had a few of them that actually was on it. I think some places in Arkansas or Kansas, they might have had a black on there, right? And he didn't see nothing wrong. He thought it was the greatest thing. So it was like baseball, hot dog, and apple pie and Chevrolet to him. He was just as pleased as he could be. But when we tried to get on them around here, you want to get these boys to go in there pulling out the sheets and the hoods, you start talking about that county committee money, cutting it off from them. They have a problem with it, you know. So you think they're doing it because they have something to hide? I feel that they do.